Okay guys, welcome to Module 1. In this module, our expert will be teaching you about hiring permanent virtual team members. So get ready to take some notes and let's jump right in.
Okay, so when we're looking at hiring permanent employees, whether full-time or part-time, the two main countries that come to mind are India and the Philippines. Now, these are both also a good source of freelancers, by all means. However, these are also very popular for full-time staff because of how cost-effective they are and how much money you can save as a company by outsourcing to these countries. So, developers and programmers in India are going to run you $1,500 and up. Designers, $1,300. SEO specialists, 1,000. Social media managers, 1,000. General virtual assistants, 1,000. And customer support, $1,000 and up. That's still very cost effective, but it's not quite as cost effective as the Philippines. As you can see, the Philippines, things are even less expensive. Programmers, $500. Designers, $400. SEO specialists, $400. $300 for social media managers, $350 for general virtual assistants. Customer support, $300 to $600. I mean, it's a no-brainer, especially that last one. Now, the reason for the price difference is really just the power of the dollar. In the Philippines, the buying power of the dollar goes much further. So these, although they look incredibly small to us, are actually comfortable salaries in the Philippines, depending on age and where in the Philippines you live and that sort of thing, cost of living. However, generally speaking, the dollar goes much further in the Philippines, and also there's obviously a difference in demand, okay? India is very sought after by companies all over the world for outsourcing, okay? And obviously demand drives up price a bit too, whereas the Philippines is until recently, until just a few years ago, was sort of an unknown gem. And I say gem because in the Philippines, they actually speak better English than in India. In the Philippines, it's one of their official languages, and you can tell because they all sound 100% fluent. It's crazy. I personally didn't realize this before looking into the matter. In the Philippines, even the accent is barely noticeable. It sounds, if anything, some people confuse it with a Latino American accent sometimes, a first-generation Latino American maybe. Okay, there might be a little bit of a Southern Californian twang sometimes. It's been referred to as that as far as their accent is concerned. So the accent is very, very minimal. Grammar is just about perfect. Honestly, the most common grammar mistakes among Filipinos is more or less the same mistakes that you'll notice among young Americans, okay? And usually you only notice that in written content. So Philippines are an absolute gold mine for outsourcing, especially now that their workforce over the last 10 years or so are becoming much more technically skilled on all these different online types of tasks. So now they can do pretty much everything that folks in India can do at a much lower price, and there's no language barrier. There's no stigma about the accent if you're doing customer service over the phone. All right, obviously that's totally unjustified and not okay that there's a stigma about the Indian accent when customers call customer support. However, that stigma does exist. It's a well-known stigma, and it's a reality that you have to deal with as a business owner. In the Philippines, there is no such accent, and there's no stigma, therefore, associated with phone support. So cheaper, better English, and more or less the same skill sets. So that's why we're going to be focusing primarily on the Philippines in this video when we're looking at hiring permanent employees, okay? Now, if you do decide you want to check out India, India is still an incredibly cost-effective place. There's a very skilled workforce, very dedicated people there. It's a great place to outsource to it. If you prefer to do that, there's a lot of different avenues for that. One example would be virtual employee, and there's lots of companies just like this. You can just Google outsource to India, and you'll find companies that will basically do the recruiting and the hiring and the vetting and the filtering for you to make sure that you get good employees. However, obviously, if you use a service like this, there's going to be a bit of a premium tacked on in addition to what you'll be paying as a salary to the workers, okay? So just be aware of that. But I would say it's probably worth it, okay, to get it right the first time and have someone who is experienced in doing this type of vetting and recruiting do this for you. Now, the next thing I want to look at, and the place we're going to spend most of our time, is onlinejobs.ph. Onlinejobs.ph is an incredible resource. It's a great place to save a little bit of money while you're doing your recruiting, meaning you're not paying a premium for your workers on top of their salaries because you're doing the actual vetting and the filtering yourself. You're just paying a monthly fee or a quarterly fee here for however long you need to do your recruiting operations. It's really a great deal. It's a great way to tap into the Filipino outsourcing or business process outsourcing market. And there's a few different ways to use this site to find the perfect permanent long-term team member. As you can see, there are an absolute ton of job posts here. This is a very happening market, okay? And the people who are signed up here, the Filipino workers who are signed up looking for work here, are very active in checking here. We've got 7,000 job posts for writing, 22,000 job posts for English-related work, web development, finance and management, WordPress, PHP programming, customer service, very big one. Professional services, graphics and multimedia, very talented people in the Philippines in these areas. Sales and marketing, project management. You can even find people in leadership and management positions to take even more of the load off of your shoulders, which is essentially what you're doing when you're hiring full-time employees. Okay, let's just for grins, project management sounds like an interesting one. Let's do a search for PMP and see what comes up. So we've got PMP. So here we have a whole, let's see, what do we got here? 29 search results for project managers. These are people who are able to fill actual management and leadership positions in your company. And we're looking at, on average here, it looks like around $1,000. I saw one up here for close to $2,000. I mean, that's pretty significant, guys. Okay, for someone who can actually take that level of weight off your shoulders, so you can actually count on to be a leader and a manager. Okay, over here, what do we got? I saw the word process executive, senior process executive. Someone who's actually handling things, doing the collaboration and the communication for you so that you don't have to. This is pretty significant that even this level of expertise exists on this website. However, most people don't come here looking for this type of thing. Most people come here for the more standard suite of skills. Let's do a search for content writer. Philippines are well-known for their English skills, so let's leverage that and have somebody from the Philippines actually writing our social media content, our blog content. Wouldn't that be great to get off your chest? Content is just a pain in the butt, isn't it? Let's see here. $291 to $388. That's the desired salary for an experienced writer here. Consider that for a moment. Paying someone just a few $100s a month and knowing that every week you're going to get, 3 or 4 blog posts published on your blog. Content published to social media. Maybe even having marketing emails written. It depends on their skill set. You've got to interview these people. But you've got to understand the value of that. For just a few $100, how much weight does that take off of your shoulders? Freelance SEO writer. This guy knows how to write in a way that's optimized for search engine ranking. SEO-based articles. $485 to $582. I mean, that's a hell of a deal. Got another one down here. Just under $600 for content creator. You'll notice a lot of these people have 3 or 4 different skills that they've developed working online. And that's another thing to consider as well. How much of a workload can you pass off to your team if you can actually have multiple people handling multiple jobs per person? So this is a great way to search out people who are already qualified for the skills that you have. However, the most common way to approach recruiting on onlinejobs.ph is filling out an actual job posting. So I'm going to click this Post a Job button here. And we're going to pretend that we are looking for a software developer, okay? And I actually have at my disposal a very cool program called Startup Bootstrapped, which is run by a guy named Mark Thompson. And they have all sorts of training and resources specifically on the recruiting process for software people. So if you're getting into software and you need people who can develop, who can design UIs, who can get into the back end and do all the magical things that they do in the back end, this would be a very cool resource to check out. And I'm actually going to be utilizing one of the done for you job postings right here, because personally, I'm not a specialist in back-end software development or web development. So I don't really know how to write the perfect job posting. Okay, so I'm going to leverage this asset here and just paste that here. Let's have a look here. So we're looking for a back-end web developer. Let me actually change the name accordingly. And the job description right here basically explains that we need someone who's able to do back-end stuff, okay, back-end development, but still be able to communicate and collaborate with the front-end people, which means the designers, the people making the UI, the people who make things look pretty on the front end, as well as with customers, okay. Let's see here. Basic understanding of front-end technologies is therefore necessary as well. It's important. What you're looking for: 5 years of experience, back-end development, want to transform big visual ideas into flawless functionality. So someone who can look at the desired idea, the desired outcome for the software and say, I know how to make that happen. I can actually design the functionality or develop the functionality on the back end. Okay, passionate about learning from your coworkers, improving your skills, communicating your choices to the internal. So, I mean, you're basically listing a lot of traits that you want people to have. Okay, you want people reading this application and saying, is that me? Okay, a geek about process, streamlining, sharpening how you approach. You're also setting these people up for success by telling them what your standards are. You're expecting people to be enthusiastic about these different types of traits and characteristics. Okay, and these different behaviors. Essential job functions. Much of your work at Pay Kickstart, since we're getting that from, like I said, Mark Thompson, who runs Pay Kickstart. I'll just say X for now. Much of your work will be contributing to improve on the features and functionality of existing applications. Don't rule yourself out if you don't have all the skills and experience we mentioned. We look for passionate, driven people who care about improving their craft every day. That's important, okay? Now, that's optional. It's obviously going to depend on your needs. If you need somebody who's absolutely ready to go and knows everything, make that clear. However, if you're open to people who are not quite at that level, okay, but, for the sake of being cost effective or whatever, you're still willing to have them come on board and be trained by you or their fellow team members and get better, then by all means put that in here. You'll get more applications that way, right? And finally, we've got in bullet point format here a list of all the things that they need to be able to do. Design and implementation of data storage solutions, the optimization of the application for maximum speed, building reusable codes and libraries for future use. Once again, I'm not a programmer, so I don't understand what half of this stuff means. Same thing for desired qualifications. Basic understanding of front-end technologies and platforms, CSS preprocessors, Laravel framework. See, I can't even pronounce the words in here. But you need to know what you're looking for, and you need to communicate very clearly to the potential applicant what the things are that you're looking for. And of course, you're outsourcing to somebody on the other side of the world. So this job requires routine desk and computer work. No travel is required. Okay, now based on that chart we were looking at earlier, a web developer, a back-end programmer in the Philippines, $550 to $1,300. Let's just say $600 a month. Type of employment, full-time, permanent team member. Okay, ID proof. On onlinejobs.ph, this basically means the minimum amount. Basically, they get a score for all the different types of things they upload to the website, such as a driver's license, proof of past work experience, that type of stuff. And it's not the end of the world if they have a slightly lower ID proof. However, it's recommended that you try to filter applicants who have a higher ID proof score on onlinejobs.ph. Now, the skills section down here is pretty important. However, you don't want to overdo it. Okay, because you want to make sure that you're getting the people who have the skills that you need. You don't want to add a bunch of extra ones, because if you add, like, let's say, okay, writing and speaking English is very important. Okay, well, if people don't really have that particular skill or writing, we need people to be able to do, technical writing, web content writing. If you add a bunch of irrelevant stuff, although it sounds cool, you're going to be filtering out people who might be rock stars at the main thing that you need. Okay, so it's best just to grab a few specific things. So for us, we're going to be looking at software development and programming, right? We could grab all of the relevant ones that we might need. I don't know what half of these things mean because I'm not a programmer. However, you want to basically focus on just the handful of things that you absolutely, definitely need. So for ours, for example, I know I remember seeing PHP, JavaScript, Laravel. Those sound pretty familiar. WordPress development, you could click if you need somebody who knows WordPress. So anyway, the point is, just choose the handful of skills that are specifically directly relevant and necessary for the job posting. Don't go crazy, otherwise you'll be filtering out a lot of people who might actually be absolute rock stars, okay? That's about it for hiring full-time permanent employees. Once again, lots of options out there. You don't have to go to the Philippines. If you do go to the Philippines, however, onlinejobs.ph is a fantastic place to do it, both for searching people by resume and posting jobs. And you can expect a whole lot of responses to an application on onlinejobs.ph. And of course, the next step would be inviting them to a Skype conversation, for example, or a chat conversation, where you actually interview the ones who you feel are qualified based on what you're looking for. Okay, and make sure you actually have a set of questions ready to interview these people on the spot and see which ones are going to progress to the next level. And eventually, you'll hopefully narrow down one person who you want to hire. And always keep a Rolodex. If you had a couple of rock stars and you just couldn't hire them, okay, let's say you've only got one position for one person, keep a Rolodex and contact them later if work opens up. That's always a good idea as well. But that sums up hiring full-time permanent employees.
Hey folks, welcome to Module 2. In this module, our expert will be showing you how to outsource jobs to freelancers for specific projects. So get ready to take some notes and let's jump right in.
All right, guys, so here we are on Upwork. Now we're going to be looking at Upwork and Fiverr.com for hiring project-based freelancers, meaning you have a job, you need that job done, you're going to pay someone for that project. Now it might be an upfront agreed on cost for the entire project, or you could pay per hour, okay, depending on exactly what the project is and obviously the desires and the needs of the individual who's completing the project for you. Some people will only work for an hourly wage as opposed to agreeing on a project-based payment. Now, Upwork is a great place to come to because it's a little bit higher end than Fiverr, or at least it's perceived that way. And you can certainly get a lot of great applicants from here. However, what comes with the territory? Price. You are going to be paying a little bit more when you go to Upwork versus Fiverr for specific projects. So in this case, let's say that we're actually looking for an appointment setter. Okay, there's no shortage on Upwork of different types of positions and specialists. Okay, you could come up with anything, and it's probably on Upwork. Anything from web design to software development to voiceovers, graphics design. But for our example, let's do appointment setting. And appointment setting just means following up with leads or even cold calling and trying to get appointments set up for sales calls. Okay, so let's try appointment setting, and we've got several pages worth of results here. Okay, a lot of people here are doing appointment setting, and as you can see, it's always in parallel with sales and telemarketing. A lot of people who are marketing themselves as appointment setters will also happen to have closing as a skill, meaning they can also do the actual sales calls for you. They can also do the closing calls for you. A lot of them will be cold callers. They can do cold calling. Some people will specifically say in their resume that I will not do cold calling. I work with warm leads only. Okay, so you'll need to make sure you find one that fits what you're looking for. Let's just click on Deborah here. Actually, she doesn't actually specifically say appointment setting. Oh yeah, she does right there. So let's click on hers. Let's have a look at her Upwork profile. So she's got an 80% job success rate. That's one of the things you want to look at here, is how exactly your fellow job posters are rating the people here. So we've got relevant work, then we've got all work history. Okay, there's a lot of cold calling, lead generation, social media sales. So it looks like she actually does sales calls as well. And it looks like for the most part she has some pretty good feedback, or in some cases no feedback. Right here, 3 stars but no explanation given. Okay, in my book, I usually only want to take a very negative review seriously if there's some details given. But relevant work will be specifically, things that include that keyword, appointment setting or appointment setter. And it looks like she's had a lot of success doing that job for people in recent history, okay? She's done 256 jobs on Upwork. She's earned into the six figures. She has an hourly rate of $28. And she's worked a whole lot of hours here. So it looks like she might actually be a good candidate to search for. And this is the process that you would use if you were searching Upwork for qualified candidates manually. However, the thing about Upwork, let's actually come back to Deborah, is you'll notice you can't just reach out to them directly like you can on some other sites, because it's not a gig or a micro job site like Fiverr. So you actually have to have a job posting listed on Upwork to invite them to. And in this case, we know that we don't, or the software knows that we don't. So it says post job to invite. That's the only way we can get in touch with Deborah. So we have to post a job. First, we could do that by clicking that button. But the standard way is just to come up here, jobs, and click post a job. Create new job. And we're going to go ahead and name our job post. Appointment setter. Job category. Upwork automatically put that in lead generation, which sounds like a good place for it. We'll hit next. And description. Now, we've already got an example typed up here for an appointment setter job description, and we're just going to explain everything that we need. So we are in Westchester County. We need people to set up appointments on telephone. Responsibilities include cold calling local businesses with some leads provided to set up appointments for senior sales executives. So there's your sales guy. He's going to be the one actually closing the calls. Okay, the appointment setter is just someone who actually goes out there and is good at cold calling and getting people interested in setting up an appointment in the future. Okay, follow a simple script. They need to be able to do that. Also responsible for sourcing prospecting leads through internet searches such as Yelp, Google, and other internet sources. There's a proactive duty that's included in this job. Follow up with prospective leads. Confirm appointments for the senior sales executive. Act as a liaison between client and sales rep once the prospect has agreed to setting up an appointment. Now, if we had other project files that we needed to upload, we could put that right here, but we don't, so we'll hit next. And in this case, it sounds like for an appointment setter, we probably are looking for an ongoing project, not a one-time project. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click that. And we're looking for probably just these skills right here. Sales, that's not really necessary because we're having them pass leads through to the sales man. And we've got telephone handling might be a good one. And we'll go ahead and leave it at that. We don't want to add too many skills and over filter here. Let's go ahead and hit next. And we're looking for freelancers. We could go worldwide. We could go find somebody in the Philippines, right? Or the UK or Australia. Someone who, seems to have a pretty standard English accent. And we could have them calling in the United States if we wanted to provide the service, or the infrastructure for them making those international calls. Okay. For example, we could, if we were doing this via Skype, that would be an option. But for our purposes, let's do US only. And states and time zones, let's just say Central Time. Next. Who can see your job? Only Upwork freelancers, anyone. Let's go ahead and increase the reach to anyone. If we wanted to, and we only wanted to reach out to people like Deborah, who we were just now looking at, and manually invite people, we could do invite only. Putting anyone on here or only Upwork freelancers means everybody on Upwork will see the job posting, and if it applies to them, you're going to get a ton of applications to sift through, okay? Which may be good, may be bad. Okay, how many freelancers do you need for this job? We're looking for just one, and we have an option here of selecting past freelancers that we've worked with to specifically invite right from the get-go. We do not have any, but we will, theoretically, go back to that results page for people who have appointment setter as a skill on Upwork and go and start manually inviting people who we're interested in to come and apply to our job. We could add special qualifications here, such as independent or agency, if we want just one person, who's working for themselves from home, for example, or if we want an agency, so somebody who's actually running an office with a few people who are doing multiple projects or multiple jobs. Hours billed on Upwork. Let's say we only want people who have worked 500 hours or more, okay, to filter quality a little bit. Job success, let's say 80% and up. English level, self-assigned, let's say native or bilingual is important. And group, leave to no preference. Let's hit next. Pay by the hour or pay for a one-time project. Now let's say we're just running a campaign here, okay? We're just hiring someone for a one-time project. We can click that. Do you have a specific budget? Let's say we are willing to spend $2,500. And in this case, we would probably be setting some type of a quota, right? So let's say we're just opening a new B2B service in a certain city. And we just want to get, 20 appointments set. All right, we're not looking to actually hire someone on as an employee, as a permanent team member. We just want them to do this one project for us. So we're going to put a fixed price, $2,500, and we want to go for intermediate experience to make sure that the job gets done the first time around. And there you go. There is our project-based freelancer job posting. We could post this, and suddenly a ton of people on Upwork would see it and come check us out. So that's the Upwork side of things. Again, Upwork is seen as a little bit higher level. It's a little bit more expensive, but generally speaking, you're seen as getting higher quality workers and work done. Now, the other end of the spectrum could be Fiverr. Okay, Fiverr.com, you're paying for, Fiverr started out as literally just a $5 micro job website. Okay, obviously now very few people buy things for just $5 on Fiverr. Okay, but it's still dirt cheap. It's gig based. So just go accomplish one thing and you're done. Okay, there's no hourly rates, although you could theoretically arrange something like that and do that manually. Okay, and we're going to say we just need a website built. Okay, so we're here on Fiverr. We're searching. We can sort by recommended or newest arrivals or best selling. Newest arrivals is a good way to try and get somebody who's willing to work on the cheap because they're trying to build up their portfolio. They're trying to get more reviews. As you can see, these people don't exactly have a lot of stars there, and that usually means they're willing to do work for cheaper. Obviously, be careful with that because that could mean that you're going to get low quality work done. Obviously, there's more assurance of quality if you use recommended or best selling. So let's come over to best selling for website builders and content management systems. And we've got a lot of different options here to look at. And remember the dollar number that you're seeing here is only the starting price. That's the lowest entry, the lowest level of what they have to offer, okay? Another thing you're looking at is what level of seller are they. If they're a level 1 seller, that means they're still relatively new, but they've accomplished enough basic stuff and gotten good enough reviews for those things that you can more or less trust that they're going to do a pretty good job, okay? From their perspective, level 1 means they have some restrictions and cool things that they cannot do as far as how to charge money and how to customize their gig listing and that sort of thing. But from our perspective, level 1 just means they've been around for a little while, not super long, but they've got some experience under their belt and they have met a certain minimum level of customer satisfaction, which is good. I would say, unless you're really looking to to sort of pinch the pennies and tighten your belt buckle and get things as cheap as possible, if you're not looking to do that, I would say stick to level 2 or top rated seller. Okay, level 2 is you've been around for a while. It means they've completed, as it says right here, 50 orders on time with a minimum 4.8 rating, whereas level 1, 10 orders on time with a 4.8 rating. And you can just have a little bit more assurance and you can sleep better at night when you hire someone level 2 or top seller. Top rated seller means someone with at least 100 orders, minimum 4.8 rating, and these guys are manually hand-picked by Fiverr. So this is sort of the creme de la creme. Okay, we've also got Pro, which is a new feature on Fiverr. Okay, where as you can see right there, it says only 1% make it to that level. However, you're going straight to Upwork level pricing there. These people are going to be pretty expensive, which is fine. Okay, but if you're on a budget, let's just take this one for example. Make professional website with responsive design. We need a website built. We need somebody who we know has built lots of websites. Okay, and we need it done relatively cheap. This guy has a full 5-star rating and has built apparently 567 websites, or accomplished, that number of gigs. All right. As you can see, we've got a bunch of different options here, including the number of pages that are done. Basic SEO are done in the standard and premium package. Let's see, pop-ups on this one here. He'll install e-commerce on the premium one. So even the most expensive one here, which includes a lot of awesome stuff, is pretty cheap. That's $300 for a pretty robust and substantial website. Let's have a look at the portfolio. This is his portfolio of work that he's done. Okay, so these look like pretty solid websites. He's got a solid portfolio of good-looking websites, and you can get the max package with all the goodness in it for $300, for $295 right there. Now, the way that this works is you're literally hiring people directly. You're not posting a job here. Although you can post sort of a job/inquiry/request and have multiple people respond to it. There is an option for that. Generally speaking, the way Fiverr works is you reach out, and it's just like a marketplace, just like Amazon. You're looking at products and looking at the ratings for those products on Amazon. Here, you're looking at gigs and individual workers, okay, vendors, and you're looking at their ratings, okay, for past work, and you're choosing them, okay, not the other way around. You're not posting like you would on Upwork and then having other people come and apply to work with you. All right, so that's how Fiverr.com works, and it's a great way to save some money, get some work done. And obviously the other thing that we talked about was Upwork, where you actually post a job with all the specifics, and then you're going to be sifting through applications to pick the best qualified person. And again, Upwork is perceived as being a little bit higher end, higher quality. So by now we've talked about full-time permanent team members, and then we just talked about freelance project-based freelancers. So now it's time to move on to talk about how to actually manage those people, manage tasks, manage projects, collaborate with them, and make sure work is getting done well once you've got them on your team working for you, either as freelancers or permanent team members.
Hey folks, welcome to Module 2. In this module, our expert will be covering audience targeting, ad placement, and budgeting. So get ready to take some notes and let's jump right in.
All right, welcome to Module 2, where we're going to be going over traffic, placement, and budget. So prior to getting to this point, obviously you will need to have done some market or audience research. You need to have an avatar of the ideal customer or prospect that you want to go after with your Facebook ads. So for this example, let's say we are creating a new sports drink, and we want to get our new sports drink in front of people in the fitness niche. For locations, you can get very creative here. If we wanted to, we could just leave it broadly at the United States, but let's go ahead and go with one specific city. Once you choose a city, you can actually go with a radius around that city. Now, for our purposes, let's just say we're trying to sell our sports drink to anyone in the United States, so we'll choose the United States as a whole. Now, I haven't studied up on the fitness niche, but let's say that we did, and that our research indicated that ages 21 to 44 were the most active buyers of sports drinks within our audience. Next, gender, we could choose one of these. We'll set it to all. Languages, not really a factor here, but if you wanted to, you could choose specific languages. And then for detailed targeting, we can actually dive even deeper and make sure we're hitting the right people. Let's just type in the word fitness and see what happens. So Facebook is already giving us a whole lot of suggested interests, behaviors, and even employers and job titles that we can choose here. Fitness consultants might be interested in our sports drink, so we could choose that. Physical fitness as a general interest has a huge following, 311 million. That might actually be a little too broad. So let's go with men's fitness, a little bit more narrow. And while we're at it, let's see what we get with women's fitness. In this case, as you can see, we have behaviors and interests to choose from. We can actually go with women's fashion and apparel buyers, women's apparel, women's fitness plans, but the real golden nugget in this list of suggested targeting is going to be Women's Health and Fitness magazine. Women who have been identified by Facebook as having interest in this magazine are a very powerful market to go after for a fitness product. It's not just someone who at some point in the past liked a page that had something to do with fitness. This is a specific brand, an actual magazine that exists, and we can imagine that the people who are listed by Facebook as being interested in it might even be subscribers to the magazine, or at least dedicated followers on social media. So let's say that we're good with this set of targeting right here. Let's say we want to narrow it even further. Let's say 3,500,000 is a little too big of a reach for us on our first ad run, for whatever reason. Let's go to narrow, and we'll type in another interest. Let's try gym and fitness clubs. Now, when we chose that, our audience shrunk to 150,000 people. And that's because Facebook uses AND logic instead of OR logic between these two boxes here. We're narrowing. So in this case, anybody who wants to be in our audience must be a part of this audience and any of these three, rather than this one or this one or this one or this one. That's what narrowing does. It's very powerful. In this case, we actually narrowed our audience a little bit too much. So we can click X to remove that AND logic, and we'll proceed forward with our 3.5 million people potential reach. Moving on to placements. It's becoming more and more recommended to choose automatic placements because Facebook, as a platform, is very smart. It knows what's going to get you the best results most of the time. If you wanted to come in here and manually choose your placements, let's say you have an actual practical reason for only wanting people on mobile, or only wanting your ad to show up in the newsfeed instead of the sidebar, or only wanting your ad on Instagram, you could certainly come through here and mark each of these. You might have a reason for this having to do with your audience research. Perhaps you learned that the most active purchasers of sports drinks make their purchases on mobile phones. Now that doesn't sound very likely, but just as an example, you might have a good reason for doing this. However, for starters, you might want to let Facebook do the heavy lifting here and go with automatic placements. And after you've run your first one or two campaigns, then you can look back and see which placements performed best, and then start manually choosing those in the future. In this case, you're taking the risk out and letting Facebook do all the hard work on your first couple of campaigns, and you can use that data later on to make your ads perform even more efficiently. So let's move on to budget. Now, budget is an incredibly important factor of your campaign to get right because it will significantly affect the performance of your campaign. Now, the first decision to make is daily versus lifetime. If you were to go with a lifetime budget, you'd basically be setting a max amount to be spent during a specific period of time for your ad campaign. If you're going with an evergreen approach, meaning your offer isn't going to expire or you're not working with a hard launch period, daily budget might be best. And basically you'll be deciding how much you want to spend per week in this case. Now, let's move to run my ad set continuously starting today. You'll see in this case, you'll spend no more than $140 per week, but the daily amount will vary. Facebook will simply make sure that the average across each week is approximately $20. But you might spend a little more than that or a little less than that per day. If you choose a start and end date, however, Facebook will automatically calculate the total amount that you will have spent by the end of that ad campaign. So again, it comes down to whether you're working with a hard launch or an expiring offer, or an actual evergreen offer that doesn't expire. Next up, let's talk about optimization for the ad delivery. This is very cool and very important. Facebook has recently wised up to the fact that a lot of clicks that people pay for don't actually turn into real website views. So let's read through this really quick just so we understand. Facebook allows you to optimize now for landing page views to find more people in your target audience who will click on your ad and listen to this, and wait for the landing page to load. Facebook is actually tracking, with the help of conversion pixels and so on, the performance and the behavior of people after they click from Facebook and go off to the millions and millions of landing pages out there. And they know, with their algorithms and with their data, what type of people are more likely to click on a landing page that's relevant to them and wait for it to load, and what type of people are more likely to click once and instantly bounce because they're not willing to wait for the page to load, which is a surprisingly large amount of people. So let's say we're going for clicks to landing pages instead of just general broad clicks. Now, other options here would have been impressions, which basically you're just paying for how many people are going to actually see your ad in their newsfeed or pop up in their sidebar and so on. Or daily unique reach, which basically sets a maximum for people to see your ads once per day. Now, we'll stick with landing page views for the purpose of this example. Bid amount. So this should be left to automatic, especially if you're new to Facebook ads. You're letting Facebook do the heavy lifting once again, just as we are with placements, and they will figure out what the most optimum bid strategy is. Don't worry about choosing this and thinking that Facebook is going to rip you off and make you pay more than you should be for your ads. Facebook knows that the better performance and better bang you get for your buck, the more likely you will be to continue giving them more money. So they will make sure that your ads work as good as possible. Now, if you wanted to go the manual route, you'd actually have to choose your bid amount and set it per landing page view. Again, that's an actual view, not just a click. If you've been doing this for a while and you know your numbers really well, let's say you've got a sales funnel in place, a lead generation and a sales funnel, and you've already calculated the lifetime value of every customer and the potential value of each lead, and you've got an idea of how much you're willing to spend per landing page view in order to acquire a lead, and know full well that you'll break even or come out with a profit based on a certain bid amount, well then go ahead by all means and go with manual. However, if you don't have all of that data already set up, if you haven't done all the math already, and if you're new to Facebook ads, highly recommend you go with automatic and let Facebook do all of that mathematical and algorithmic heavy lifting for you. Now, with the landing page views optimization option, we will get charged for impressions, and that is set as the default. However, if you were to choose a different option, you'd see a more options link here, and you'd be able to choose things like certain actions, such as clicking a link, or if this was a Facebook lead ad we were setting up, it would be for every time someone actually enters their email address and becomes a lead. Now, we don't have ad scheduling chosen here because we have our daily budget set. If we had set this to lifetime budget, then we'd be able to manipulate our actual ad scheduling. Delivery type, it's set to standard right now, which means show your ads throughout the day on your selected schedule. However, if we wanted to, we could go with the accelerated option if we had manual bids going on, and that means the emphasis is put on the speed at which your ads are shown to as many people as possible. So that covers this module. We went over traffic targeting, ad placements, and budget and schedule. Now we're going to move on to creating our actual ad creative.
Okay guys, welcome to Module 1. In this module, our expert will be teaching you about lead magnets and how to create the best ones for your business. So get ready to take some notes and let's jump right in.
Okay guys, so in this lesson we're going to go over the different types of lead magnets you can use for lead generation. So I'm going to walk through some examples of possible lead magnets, and then we're going to go create our own little example for this course. So starting at the least expensive end of the spectrum, as some might say, we have a little PDF report. These are really common, and I'm sure you've seen about 1 million of them online. If you're on a tight budget or a tight schedule, these are a great way to deliver a little bit of value in return for some opt-ins. Here we have another PDF guide or ebook, and the great thing about these is that you can literally outsource the content writing to a freelancer or license pre-written materials elsewhere if you just can't be bothered to make your own from scratch. One downside of the old ebook/PDF model, of course, is that they have low perceived value, which can sometimes mean lower opt-in rates and less excited prospects. The next step up could be something like a video course. Here we see a bundle of 2 video courses being offered as a lead magnet. For a lot of people, this will have more perceived value than a PDF file. So if there's a simple way for you to obtain or create video content, or even repurpose your textual content into video form, that might help raise your perceived value. Moving even further in that direction, we have a full membership, an academy with a ton of video lessons and courses. As you can imagine, this will be seen as pretty valuable for a free lead magnet. And finally, here we have sort of a bundle, 3 video courses plus a membership. This is really pushing the perceived value of a lead magnet to the max. So let's go ahead and start crafting our own lead magnet. Now, obviously, this lesson isn't going to teach you how to create the actual content. That's something you or your company have to do. So I'm not going to show you how to write a book. What we are going to do is assume that you've already created the content itself, either by you or outsourcing it to someone or acquiring it and licensing it, and we're going to package it into an attractive lead magnet. So let's come on over here to myecovermaker.com. And let's say we want to offer a guide on do-it-yourself home improvement. So let's choose one of the tablet options way down here. That's always a cool way to represent an ebook or a PDF guide. And let's set our background on this to black. Let's stick a little title in here, maybe DIY Home Repair Guide. Let's resize that a little bit and move it around. Okay, and now we need a compelling image. So let's come over here and let's type in construction. This will give us a ton of results to choose from. And let's go with this one right here. We'll bring that into our e-cover and reposition it a little bit. Once we're happy with the way it looks, we'll hit finalize and we'll give it a few moments to render that for us. All right, not bad. So we've got an attractive lead magnet created here, and the next step is going to be to present it in an attractive way on an actual landing page, which is what we'll cover in the next lesson.